that is clearly designed to just slow the process to a crawl so that ICE can't do its work.
Do the Democrats want to make a deal on this to get something done, or are they really here primarily to make the Republicans look bad? Welcome to Political Perspectives. I'm Hugo Gurdon, Editor-in-Chief of The Washington Examiner. Please, if you are joining us by YouTube, like and subscribe to our channel, which we're growing fast. I am joined again this week by Byron York, Chief Political Correspondent for The Washington Examiner. And Byron, let's talk about immigration and the politics thereof and how it plays into the election. The first thing I want to point out is that the president has signed a bill which funds the government, so the partial shutdown is over, but it doesn't include Department of Homeland Security, and there's a big sticking point in that, and it's about immigration enforcement. This was no doubt a good thing to be signing, but there's still a long way to go. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It's actually the smart way to do it when you have a fight between the parties about one particular issue. You approve funding for everything else and then have your fight about that issue. That's what Democrats did not do last fall in the shutdown that lasted so long, and they suffered politically for it. So I think neither side is going to suffer very much, and people will focus on this debate, which is a real debate about the tactics that ICE is using in Minneapolis and elsewhere.
So immigration enforcement is the key issue. What actually are Democrats demanding?
Well, I mean, they're responding very much to the news coverage of what you're seeing out of Minneapolis. And they have really three big demands. And two of them, I think, are pretty doable. One is they want ICE officers to wear body cams. And I believe we've already had a word from the administration that every ICE officer in or agent in Minneapolis is going to wear body cams. And I believe even before this became a big issue in the shooting of Alex Preddy, I believe at least four of those officers were wearing body cams at that time. So everybody should be wearing body cams. President Trump has said he's okay with that. This is just not really a problem. Another issue is concerns the masks that the ICE agents wear. A lot of negative reaction to that in the public, and I can understand that. I don't like it either. ICE says, well, our agents are being doxxed, and they might be retaliated against if the public can see their faces. I think they're going to have to just try that and see what happens. And so not sure they're going to keep wearing those masks.
Well, and so
both of those, yeah.
Yeah, on the mask, though, I mean, this is one of those, I suppose, somewhat clever tactics by the people who don't want any immigration enforcement. The ICE agents wear the masks because they are being singled out. The protesters are checking IDs, and they're very much, as you say, doxing them. There's a threat against them. They want to conceal who they are to make the threats less, to reduce the threats, and yet it does create a bad look. The public doesn't like to see any law enforcement hiding who they are, and there's good reasons for that. But there's also been pretty good reasons for them to conceal who they are, hasn't there?
Yes, you're absolutely right. But I, personally feel that ICE should have more of a police look than a military look.
Right.
So I think that the more they can do to make themselves look like federal police officers, which is what they are,
Right.
the better off they will be.
Yeah.
Now, the last big demand, I think, is a complete non-starter, which is that the Democrats basically want to make ICE go to a judge and get a warrant every time it wants to arrest somebody. And that is clearly designed to just slow the process to a crawl so that ICE can't do its work. A number of the controversies that we've had with ICE in Minneapolis involved agents going to try to find a person for whom a final order of removal had been issued by an immigration judge. That is, the person had received full due process. It was time to go. Inserting another judicial step in that, where they have to go to a judge to get an approval of a warrant, I think it would unreasonably slow down ICE, and I don't think the administration is going to agree to that.
So, Byron, it sounds like the Democrats have come up with a clever scheme where it's either heads they win and tails the Republicans lose, because either they have a demand in the negotiations which the Republicans cannot meet, and it makes the Republicans look bad. Because, I mean, I think a lot of people might just think, well, you know, if you want to arrest someone, shouldn't you get a warrant for arrest? They don't go into the detail that you've just given us, which is that they already have a final order for removal. So either the Republicans can be made to look good and look bad, and this helps the Democrats, or, and I think this is a very long shot, that all the Republicans agree that somehow or President Trump agrees that somehow warrants will be issued, in which case, as you say, the enforcement grinds to a halt. So I guess my question is it more, do the Democrats want to make a deal on this and get something done, or are they really here primarily to make the Republicans look bad and to kill immigration enforcement?
Well, they really do. Democrats, many of them really do oppose aggressive enforcement of federal immigration law. I mean, they really would like to stop it if they could. After all, the last president let in maybe 10 million, maybe more
Right.
people illegally into the country. So they really would like to stop it, but that's not going to happen under the current administration. And my sense is all this is happening while Minneapolis is still happening. And
Right.
if Minneapolis gets quieter, and it has been for the last few days, then the problem becomes less heated, and a solution, quote, solution becomes less urgent. So as we're speaking, Tom Homan just spoke to the press a couple hours ago, and made clear that one, ICE was pulling, the feds were pulling 700 people out of Minneapolis. Still leaves about a couple of thousand of them there to operate, but clearly that they were operating in a different way, which Homan called a smarter type of enforcement. And they're going to continue to enforce immigration law, but without some of these confrontations that we saw over the last month in Minneapolis. So if Minneapolis cools down, the whole issue cools down on Capitol Hill, especially if the White House and administration do something kind of common sense, like saying, sure, everybody's going to wear a body cam. We totally believe in that.
Right.
So I don't think this is a lasting issue for Democrats, especially since the polls still show that majorities of people want illegal immigrants to be deported if they have committed a crime,
Mm-hmm.
and many just for the crime of being present in the United States illegally. So I don't think this is a long-term winning issue for Democrats.
Right, and I think that you're already seeing, ever since President Trump sent Tom Homan out there and essentially displaced Kristi Noem in this process, that there has been a sense of greater calm, greater competence, and I believe that there are some poll numbers showing marginal improvement for the Republicans on this issue. But it is the case, is it not, that Republicans on Capitol Hill are very worried about the impact that Minneapolis has had and enforcement has had, because it's now almost exactly 9 months before the November elections. Historically, the party in power loses, and the polls are not looking good for them. The President Trump must surely know that the danger of impeachment looms over him, because if the Republicans lose the House and the Democrats take over, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. So the Republicans on Capitol Hill still very much want to deal and to turn the page on this, don't they?
Well, I'm not sure I actually agree with that. Of course, they want to focus on the midterms, and what they'd love to be talking about is how the Trump administration has made the economy better.
Right.
So that they would love to be talking about that, because that's what voters voted for. But voters did also vote for immigration enforcement. This is
Right.
part of what the president talked about when he ran for president. Now, on the other hand, every time the president makes a big deal about something like Venezuela, voters go, what? Did we vote for this? I don't know. Iran is going to could conceivably be another issue in that category. Might be a valid foreign policy goal, but voters don't really care that much about foreign policy when they make their decisions in midterm elections.
Right.
So my guess is that Republicans would not want to turn the page and get off the immigration so much as that they would like to improve the enforcement of immigration
Right.
so they could say that they have removed X number of thousand or million criminal illegal aliens from the country.
Yeah, and that goes right to the heart of the difficulty of a change of tactics, doesn't it? In that, if there is any, as it were, softening of enforcement, it can give the impression that President Trump might be tiptoeing away from the key issue that for some of his voters was the number one issue on which they wish to elect him. So you might gain some people on one end of the spectrum or one part of the spectrum and lose people on the other. So it's a very difficult thing to try and achieve if you're thinking purely politically rather than just, what's the policy? What is the right thing to do?
Well, they're certainly thinking politically right now, and you're right. You need those base voters to show up in midterm elections. And if some of them believe, this sounds kind of funny to say, but if some of them believes that Donald Trump has become a squish on immigration, they're not going to be
Yeah,
happy.
right.
It's clearly I just don't think that's going to happen. The president's going to keep up enforcement, and I think Tom Homan probably has the answer here, which is to do the enforcement, but do it better than you saw in Minneapolis for a few weeks there.
Yeah, well, that's an optimistic note, and I think that's probably right. I agree with that. Byron, thank you very much for joining us this week.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our viewers for joining us. Please come again next week for another edition of Political Perspectives.